Like it was the absolute like peak of like pulling one over on the parents. Where it's like the Saturday night where they're like, "Fine, you can stay up." It's like, "Yeah, Saturday Night Live, let's go."
Yeah.
But they probably don't get half of the references. It's like
No.
this skit is Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. And I'm sitting there like 12, like, yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm up at midnight.
The adult beverages are poured. The kids are asleep. Welcome to New Dad Gaming. It's a show about fatherhood, gaming, and new fathers figuring out their gaming lives.
My name is Trevor, and I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old.
And my name's Jeff. I have a... God,
Yep.
I have a teenager. I keep saying it in my mind, like, oh my god, 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they're very much awake, Trevor.
Oh, nice. We might finally have an interruption. It comes full circle. So it goes from, we are young dads with little babies and, like, get some baby crying. The show gets interrupted.
Yep.
And then they calm down and they start sleeping through the night. And now it's kind of coming full circle where yours are old enough to be up late, especially in the summertime, and come bursting through the door, I don't know, needing like your credit card or something for a gaming purchase.
Oh, it's probably like a password reset. Like, Dad, do you know my password? Please.
The Wi-Fi's not working. I'm streaming,
Oh.
damn it, keep it live.
Yeah. Actually, I do that too. I prioritize our show in the router because they eat up all the bandwidth, Trevor. So my livelihood can't suffer.
Of course. Just sucking everything down for this show. We do appreciate it. Hey, so great to be with you here, everybody. Right off the hop, we're running down the list of topics. And Jeff says, okay, I got one. I can explain it. And it's like, all right, so my kids need a burner account. And I'm like, okay, stop. I don't want to hear anything else. But I do want to hear the story, but save it for live. So your kid needs a burner account. What's up with that, Jeff?
Yeah, so much like the subject line, it's pretty self-explanatory when you... So my phone is still reading, or at least attached to my kids' emails, just because it's like a part of the family account or whatever, and usually nothing goes through there but spam. But then this one popped up saying, hi, name of my kid. Thanks for reaching out. I would be happy to allow you to use this thing for your own project. And I'm like, what is happening? I go into the email, and I guess my 14-year-old emailed a YouTube creator who's building levels in Geometry Dash, and they wanted to use a model of what they use and like alter it, right? So they asked permission.
That's cool.
And they did like this diagram of their structure and my structure and the differences and the changes. I'm like, it is really well like crafted. Like, I'm surprised. Like, I don't get this level of effort during your school projects.
Yeah.
But the problem is that this email is really just for the family. So like it has our last name, it has their first name, easily identifiable, right? And so my thought was, so when my wife and I got this email on our phones, my wife's like immediately like, oh my God, like what is this? We're going to have to talk to them. And I'm like, they really need a burner account. So they need something with a fake name, whatever it is, Kool-Aid box number 62. Go contact your YouTube creators and ask for permission, whatever you want, right? But not with your real name out there with whoever this is. And I had to like look up the person. I'm like, okay, what's this guy's history? What kind of channel is it? And so I was sent down like a whole homework path. Anyway, I think everybody needs a burner account. I know I started out on one before I actually got my name in an email set, but it's just like one of those things that I didn't think of.
Oh, that's so funny. I mean, so I appreciate the concern. I think it's probably going to be fine. I mean, the thought, if everybody could just get dox your location based purely on your email address, unless you have the wildest email address imaginable as far as like
Yeah.
all your personal information at gmail.com. Here's
Yeah.
my SIN number at gmail.com. You probably should be fine. But it's kind of I've gone down this rabbit hole a little bit, but they're not so much burners. Like what I did was to set them up with some really choice email accounts.
Okay.
So I have like their names like at gmail.com. Like
Yep.
nice emails. And like you're gonna get a job with that email. That's professional.
I've set you up already. This is great. Yeah, yeah.
You're good to go.
Yeah.
And not only that, so I'll say that first. Like it's kind of worth looking in, and I'll tell you this. I think there's a dumb Google commercial, but forgetting that for a moment, it is kind of neat to have like an email account kind of ready for your kid. I've seen some versions of it where people are like emailing that account so that when you give it to them at some point, like there's this diary of like things that have happened. I am not this organized to do it.
Oh,
by the
yeah,
way.
yeah. Wow. Yeah. I haven't done that.
Like no. So, yes, I somewhat like like I go in and just like backdate. It's like, yeah, this is totally what I said like when you were 2 years old. But to mention that, so kind of worth for that. The other trick I've used, and I like many people already know this trick, but I think it's worth going. So for Roblox, what I did is I needed two different email. They have different accounts, so they need different email addresses. There's a trick with Gmail that you can just have, name at gmail.com. If you do name plus sign, you can put anything after that plus sign and it still arrives to your same email address. But other places will accept it like a brand new email address.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
but that way everything's coming to me. So for both of my kids' accounts, it's name, child1 at Gmail, name child2 at plus sign, child2 at gmail.com. So now when I have to
Right.
deal with their accounts, I don't have to like sign into 6 different ones. Like it's all just coming right into mine. So it kind of works as a burner, but it depends on like what your Gmail setup. Unless it's like jeffmyhomeaddress.com at gmail.com.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that, but it's just, one of those things that kind of like in my brain, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's something that, I think when the internet kind of started in our lives, it was never put your name out on the internet because it's out there forever, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, we're doing a podcast with our names in flashing lights. So, the world has changed. I have to kind of, accept that. But I don't know if my kid is doing this from the YouTube Premium account where they have an account and it's just linked to that email where they don't get ads, right? Because they enjoy that. But now, do I have to go in and be like, are they commenting on everybody's like? Are you one of those people?
Yeah, you're a troll. So it's Jeff professional email. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, your YouTube suck. Your geodash moves suck. Like, get a life.
Yeah.
It's like, dear Sarah, madam, I apologize profusely for my terrible comments. It was my child.
Yeah, I'd be more hurt that they weren't commenting on our streams that go up, right? Like, throw some props to the old man.
I was just okay. This is the last like kind of side tangent. We were just doing dishes before I came down to record, and my wife asked me, "It's like, hey Jeff, does Jeff's wife listen to the show?" And I'm like, I don't think so. I think like my actual retort, just to be funny with her, is like probably about as much as you listen to it. Just to say, not at all.
Exactly. Yes, and not at all.
That's
not,
good.
Not happy. Yeah, that's good.
This is a safe dad space. Our wives are wonderful,
right.
by the way. Just
Yes.
in case they decide to listen to this episode. All right, moving on. I wanted to share a bit of a breakthrough that I had with Horizon Zero Dawn. So,
Okay.
longtime listeners remember that we'd put out a poll and I said, hey, here's all my backlog. What should I play? Horizon, took it by a fair margin. So, I said, yes, I will try to beat this game. That was, I don't know, 4 months ago.
It was a while ago. Yeah, let's
going-
not count the months.
It's not going great, but I'm still trying to find some time. I've started to get into a flow. I'm not kidding you that at least 3 times I booted it up, looked at the map and saw the litany of 1,000 little dots on screen and 100 things and forgot all the buttons. And I'm just like, forget it. I can't for the life of me remember what's happening. I don't want to do this. I'm out of here. Forget all this noise. We're out of here. But I returned to it, and it's like, you know what? I seem to recall enjoying it. Let's try to get into it. And the method I used, and this might actually be helpful for a gaming dad, is nonsense as it sounds, is just go that way. So get into the game and forget the map, forget the quests, forget like whatever else is on screen. Just go over there. Just go over there. Because what happened was, all I did was I started to traverse the land. And as I do, you're just running along and I'm collecting some things. If like a monster shows up, I fight them. A huge, amazing vista shows up out of nowhere. It looks gorgeous and fantastic. Like I'm absolutely loving that. And it's like, okay, well, this is like the next path. Let's just burn through the main quest. Let's see what happens. Start like moving along, start to do it. Then there's one side quest. And the next, like this one thing just leads to another where all of a sudden it's like these tiny steps that are just building up. And all of a sudden, like I'm heavily invested in a plot about the sun god's armor guard that got killed. It's a murder mystery all of a sudden. And now, like, I'm turning off the game. It's like, oh, that was a great session. I want to play again.
Right. Okay.
So it all started from a place where I'm not kidding. Like at least twice to 3 times I tried to start and it got overwhelmed. Like, forget it. Like, this looks huge. I don't want to deal with it. And then I just kind of put myself aside and said, just walk forward for a while. Just like in game, like go for a walk, like see what you can find, see what's up. And ultimately just ended up being like re-pulled in to what ultimately is like a great game.
Yeah. I could totally understand that. Because again, a lot of these games, it's not all filler, but they give you so much at once, right? And then you talk to one person and it spawns 5 side quests and you're like, what am I doing here? Right? And you shut down the game, you open up the game next time, and you have all those icons all over your map and you're wondering what's going on. And I remember with the newest Horizon, so when you get to that one, if you do all those side quests, you get easily burnt out, right? But if you do like 3 of the main line quests, they give you so many more tools. So that makes all those side quests so much easier, and the traversals so much easier. And I think I could relate it even just to Zelda. So Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it was like you're running around in kind of like this open sandbox, like doing all this stuff. And then, but if you kind of like beeline it for like where you're supposed to go, you get more tools to make that stuff easier. It's just like I wish, like I always feel like I'm missing out. I think that's both our issues. Like, no. Yeah. I need the full story here. I need the whole chapter, like all of it, right?
Yeah. That's even better. Because in truth, that's what it was. Not only did I start to move, but I started to just like beeline the main story, exactly like you said. It's like, forget it. Forget the side quests. I have every young man's pull, like how I used to play games, where it's like I love all the side quests. I love to be horrifically overpowered by the time I get to the final boss because I've done everything. But it's almost self-defeating, because then now your quest log is like 1,000 wide and like you're not gonna be able to do it, whatever. As opposed to just like as fast as possible, start to get through the main story and let things kind of unfurl naturally. And I'll say like this is like I was doing fine. Like I'd hit 3 or 4 story beats in a row. And then this one came up and I'm like, okay, this one's interesting. This isn't a chore. Like this is like intrigue. This is fantastic. I want to know what's up with this. And it's been like hugely fruitful. It's been phenomenal. In some ways I'm kind of over leveled for it. So as exactly as you said, because like you had that progression, now the side stuff is less of a chore and it's just like a lot of fun. So yeah, I'll pitch it to gaming guys. If there is a game that you want to play, or you're finding yourself like, oh, I don't know if I want to play this, I'm not going to have time, I'll just browse my phone instead. It's a great little tactic that you back into it, of like, get in and just move forward and consider just beelining the main quest to see what kind of naturally like branches off, okay?
Yeah, no, and I love when games kind of already put it up in front saying, hey, you can complete the game and come back and do all these side quests. Because I think that was also a concern with some of the games I've played, where it's once I beat this, I don't want to go back into like previous saves or something and do the things that I kind of want to do. So I know Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, just dialogue box in your face saying, you can do everything in the mainline quests and come back. Yeah. There's too much here. We're putting a warning. You're going to get burnt out. So enjoy the story. Come back.
Just take it. Chill out. It's still going to be here, okay? It's like us talking to our kids.
It is.
Like,
it really is.
I know you want ice cream. I swear to you that the ice cream buffet will be here when you're done. Just eat your Pizza Hut pizza first, and then you can go back to the ice cream buffet. I promise you.
That's right. It's not going anywhere. It's okay. Everything's fine.
Oh, absolutely adore it. All right, now you had a fantastic tidbit. I am so surprised that you had revisited an old system, which also was a bit of a surprise anyways. I'd like you to draw the story up about why on earth you were possibly looking at such an old system. But not only was it an old system that suddenly became piqued interest of your kids, it's the damn thing won't die. So what happened with planning for an upcoming trip you had?
Yeah, so this was looking at a number of things of what makes the criteria of having enough battery power for the airport, airplane, and then kind of the destination getting into where we need to go. And the answer is always the 3DS, because the 3DS has been sitting around this house for a couple of years now, untouched, collecting dust, two of them. And I popped them open just to see if, how much do I need to charge it, what's going on. Not expecting any of it. The thing turns on full brightness, full battery power. Hey, the last game you played is like going off in the back. Like everything is working, ready to go, with like the side message of like, hey, we actually this is so old, we've closed down the digital store, but you have all your battery power and all your games are fine. Go for it, right? And it's just one of those things like, what?
I recall back in I don't know if it ever was true, but I remember there's some sort of story about Volvo, the car company, going out of business because their cars refused to die. So somebody would just buy them. It's like, oh, good. I just have a car now until I pass away. And it lasts like 40 years. You'd almost think that Nintendo would run into a similar problem if there wasn't like the exorbitant tax that they charge in every damn game, I suppose. But the length and power of these things. Nintendo, you can still buy an NES and it works. SNES, absolutely. N64, maybe about the shakiest of them, honestly. But like the 2DS, 3DS, good Lord, these devices, they just don't stop. What a quality. It's basically like a buy it for life type of console, huh?
It really is. It's like the cockroach of the nuclear wasteland, right? Like it's always going to survive and be there. And this thing, again, you enjoy the clamshell design, right? It's the perfect form factor. And that's one of the things, again, to pack the thing. So for the Switch, like I have the Switch and the Steam Deck. Definitely bringing the Steam Deck because that's for Dad.
That's a little dad packing.
That's for me. But the Switch is kind of cumbersome because it needs its own case. I have a couple extra Joy-Cons that we might meet up with family down there. So like I have to pack those in a separate thing. And then we have enough games that it won't fit in the game case that I have. So do I get a new case or whatever? And then I ask the kids, and it turns out they just don't even want to bring it. They just want their 3DSs. They're like, hey, I haven't played that in a while. That would be a fun nostalgia trip for them. I'm like, okay, like a lot less space, and yeah, the battery's ready to go, and it could probably last the entire week without even taking the chargers. So I think it's set.
Man, the Switch is like nothing but screen. The Joy-Cons are nefarious for like we've gone through 3. Yeah, like, those things break unfortunately like anything. Yeah, but man, the 3DS, like that is fantastic that they could get back into it. I'm curious, where is it in there seems to be kind of like an arch of pricing, like a curve, where it comes out super expensive, right? But then it starts to age a little bit. Maybe the next one comes and the price drops off because everyone's trying to get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
And then there's kind of like the zone where nothing much happens, but then it eventually hits a point where it's just old enough to be nostalgic and the price just skyrockets. Do you think that has a 3DS reached the skyrocket point yet? Like, I'm curious.
I'm surprised that you're not doing your Trevor Google
just
segment.
As I'm talking, like the problem is I was talking with my hands, so it went free to type. So,
yeah, no, I'll carry the show while you Google.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it is in that kind of zone, depending on what 3DS you have, because one kid has the new 3DS, which is like the Galaxy design or whatever, which was a little bit updated from the like OG 3DS. And I think it's in pretty good condition, minus like some goobers, but I have, screen protectors on that. I as a new dad gaming kind of champion here, anything with a screen needs a screen protector, especially kids. just do it. I don't know.
So we're looking at one. So we got a 3DS with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but basically just one game for 120. DS XL for 280. DS Lite
Whoa.
for 50. Oh, I know. I think it might have crossed the divide. So we got 350 for the XL, 200, 2 games. So yeah, not
That's a
not
lot.
exorbitant, but it says 2 games, but it's like Transformers and Cats. That's not
That doesn't count.
basically not a game.
Unless there's digital games there that are not associated with it, but yeah.
Okay, we got 150 for a 2DS XL. Yeah, it feels like it's just at that zone where it's about to cross the chasm and be like too expensive. Damn. Just like,
Well, now do I take them on the plane and risk losing them, which is potentially like part of their college fund that maybe
What
that you know,
am
like
I-
goes up in price? We could.
somebody think of the investment, please.
That's right.
Sorry,
Yeah,
kids.
no.
Sorry, kids. You cannot take your consoles anymore because like daddy needs to make an investment one day for them.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and they have a lot of games for these things. So that's one thing that it does have like a share play option for some of them, because I was worried about that. I'm like, they're both going to want to play Pokemon. Like whatever Pokemon game they have, there's multiple, but they'll want to play the same one. So that's like my concern as well. It's like less, it's really like one person plays it, right? There's a couple games where you can kind of play together, but
Man, that'd be good.
we'll see.
Jeez, the two of them did them, and this might be. It's funny that I've never crossed this before. If you have like 2 Switches, could they just like wirelessly link up in some way, like the 3DSs used to, or?
There is Switch versus Switch. I just don't know how it connects. So I don't know if it uses the same Wi-Fi network or some other signal, but you can play just Switches together. But
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Now just think about the car battles of just like having 2 of those systems and 2 of your kids just going at it. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, 3DS will never die. Hey, gaming dads, do you have a similar console story where busted it out and somehow the batteries still had a charge? Is there one that holds a place in your heart and you caught it before the product skyrocketed for nostalgia? Reach out to us, newdadgaming.com, or on social at newdadgaming. So one game that has never really died in our household but did leave us for a short while was Rubber Bandits. So this is very much from a gaming dad perspective. This is very akin to gaming dad favorite Boomerang Fu, where
Yes.
it's kind of like this small maps, big silly fun, kind of like cartoonish style characters, like just nonsensical, wonderful fun, right? Local multiplayer, awesome.
Yeah.
So Rubber Bandits, for those who don't know, like you play you play characters ostensibly made of rubber, and you're doing a heist. You're trying to steal various things from various maps. You can also have different challenges, like, hey, don't get knocked off, don't be the last. It's a bunch. It's a isometric brawler, I guess you could say in that way. Super cutesy, dumb, fun, fantastic. Weapons in it, if that's kind of a bother, like there's like a gun, but it's very much the Looney Tune variety, where like you see the bullet like traveling type of thing.
Okay, yeah.
So you would certainly not call it violent. It's there's violence, but you wouldn't call it violent. That might be kind of a good way to characterize it.
I mean, we're looking at a chainsaw here, and
You're laughing. We're all laughing. It's one of those funny chainsaws.
but yeah, it is very much Looney Tunes, just like over the top kind of fun, right? Like slapsticky.
Yeah. So now we had it on Game Pass. So this is how we first got introduced to it, and it was great. Like we had many times playing it. Like, and you can actually do this mission together as co-op. It's either versus or co-op. Another great thing for family play, right? We beat it many times together. Great. It left Game Pass.
No.
So all of a sudden, like we didn't have access to it anymore. And it's one of those things where I don't know if you've had the same thing where you want to kind of feel out the space with your kids where, okay, you say you miss it, but would you still play it if we had it? Okay, because you guys are
Yeah.
heavily into Roblox right now. Do you really miss this game, or is it just like another one? But over the months, well, actually, I'll stop there for a second. Like, have you had something similar where they're like, oh, could you buy this because we miss it? And you're just waiting them out a little bit to see if they actually miss it?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It was one of them. Human Fall Flat. Like we had.
Oh yeah.
It was on PlayStation Plus or whatever it was, and loved it, loved it, loved it. Of course, it left, and honestly, it was a few months before they even realized that it left. And then one day, they have a friend over or something, and they're like, "Yeah, I know this great game. I want to play." Oh, we can't play that because we don't own it. Right. And that was kind of more forced purchase because I'm like, okay, I'll shut them up and keep them quiet, right? It's like $10,
Yeah.
whatever, like go have your fun. But it's almost like they only go back to it when it, of course, has left whatever service you have. You're like, of course, like, yeah.
Of course,
Why
now
not?
you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So came back around. So the thing is too, like, it costs $12. So
Right.
like, and it came right down to $12. Was able to purchase it. It's for PC and for Xbox, and brought it back in. Today, like, man, they just had such a riot. Like, I was working, but I could hear them playing it, and that's a great feeling. Like to see them like take this thing that you've just purchased, especially a game, and just have like a rip roaring good time. So you're like,
Giggles,
that
right?
was a good purchase. That was a good purchase.
Yeah. When it's laughter, yes. When it's just like, oh, I can't believe you did that. Like,
I hate you super cheater.
Mom, Dad, they threw a chair at me in game.
So, anyways, so funny story for us. I'm glad it worked out, and small gaming day recommendation there. Rubber Bandits, fantastic, fun, silly game.
Fun,
Couch,
silly fun. I like it.
fun, silly fun. Couch co-op and the rest. So definitely dad approved. Now, not dad approved, by any means, are over the complex skill trees. So to cue you up for your story, why don't you break down what happened and your reply that got some heat just recently?
Yeah, so I saw a tweet out there from one of our followers. It goes by Central Scrooty. Is that
Scrooty?
did I have that right?
Central Scrooty or Nick?
And they posted a skill tree that's from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I recognized it immediately, and I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of looks Skyrim-y, right? And they're just saying, this is the worst skill tree I've ever encountered, right? I'm like, okay, I have a flashback immediately, like top of mind. Like I went to Final Fantasy X Sphere Grid, so it's circles everywhere, and just plastered on screen. I got the whatever Google image told me of this whole zoomed out view of the Sphere Grid, right? And put it there, and like everybody's just like, yep, right? And then there's a few that are like, no, I love that system, whatever. And it all boils down to like, did you like going through every single circle to figure out what it did and how it connected to the other circle that you might need later on, and plan ahead and all that stuff? Because I don't remember liking the system necessarily. I know it gave you a lot of options, which is always great in an RPG, but I don't even think it had like a respec option. Like once you committed, like that was it. Like you were just done. Like okay, hopefully you didn't paint yourself into a corner when you fight the end game boss. I think it was Sin or something, right? And you're like, oh, well, I guess we'll find out.
Like, I adored this game. This is one of my more favorite of the Final Fantasies, and yet,
yeah.
like, I forgot. I had completely memory hold all of this.
Did you really?
Like, I don't remember. I remember being like, it might have just been the fact that like I was so maxing out everything. Like I finished this game, like the final boss, Waka threw his ball at him once, and the end boss died.
Really? Okay.
I was so overpowered in this game. It was amazing.
So very different from your Horizon experience, where you're just like going through the main.
Opposite. So I absolutely memory hold this. I had no clue
Yeah.
that this still existed, and it's like it looks like they all use the same skill tree, but man, I am so confused even just watching this. It's worth anyone who's played the game. I would encourage you to like YouTube it or check out for an image. Final Fantasy X skill tree to get a sense of what we're talking about. And what is the closest you have? Like I would almost imagine I mentioned Assassin's Creed. Like I don't know if The Witcher had something similar. Like
Not really.
what is the most complicated skill tree you've been willing to mess with? Like now, like post kids, basically.
Oh, that's a good one, because like Witcher 3, you mentioned it, like it had options and I did it. But it wasn't intense like this. So the one, okay, so it's not a skill tree, but it's more the materia system in Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. So that like you could organize and stuff, but I didn't feel like it had, even as I'm talking, Elden Ring, right? Elden Ring, you are committed to those stats. So I take back my answer. It's Elden Ring, because you commit to those stats, and like it does affect your game, right? So if you're not pumping up the right stat, you can't use that weapon that you may get later on. So you're just kind of like set in your ways. But as soon as the game kind of introduces you like halfway through, like, hey, you can respec. It just takes this item and you can dump in the stats and play around with it to a point. It felt so much better. But that one was probably the most complicated one, because you're constantly like doing math in your head. You're like, well, if I bump this one stat up, like I could use this, but I can't use that, and then this is more effective, blah blah blah, right? But I do get flashbacks of this Sphere Grid where it's like, it's not visually represented that way, but it's doing it behind the scenes. So I don't know. Maybe it was just the format of that. So like, do you recall any game where you're like really pumped in the time to figure it out?
No, absolutely not.
Straight up, no.
I'll say this, at this juncture, I remembered more recently I was in one of a playthrough that I was trying to get through in Final Fantasy 12. Is 12 the one with Sky Pirates?
Yes.
Okay. And I remember like I started to look at whatever they had, and it was just an immediate like drop out, Google, hey, what's the best skills to like get? Because I did not want to spend any mental effort into what was actually the best one. The one like what really daunted me more recently was Diablo 4. Because the first skill tree is super linear. Just like bang, 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 like what do you want? Like to make yourself powerful. You can choose some things, not others, but ultimately it's like, out of these three, which one do you want? And you have to kind of commit to it. Okay.
Right.
You know, is what it is. Not a problem. But the end game stuff, like it's this vast sprawl. It looks a little bit like this, except it's done in cubes, and these cubes like stack on top of each other, and depending on which ones you unlock, like the next cube comes in, and then like it is buck wild. And as like a gaming dad, I almost want to stop saying that, because we have some listeners who are very good at video games and they understand these things. So it's not like, oh, you're a dad, you can't get this, you don't understand.
Right, yeah.
This gaming dad took one look at it, and it's just like, forget it. Like I'm out of here.
Yeah, I think that's what it goes down. Like, again, you can spend a lot of time in here and have a great experience, right? Like really customizing your character and feeling those changes in game. But sometimes I just want it like, just choose an auto thing. Just make me auto good, thanks, to get to the next kind of area. Like not too good where I'm just blowing through the end game bosses, but like, you know, I want some stuff to work with. That's all. And I don't want to like figure out, 40 levels ago that I made a wrong turn. That's all. That's the worst.
If there's any benefit to our AI future, is that at some point you'll be able to talk to some smart robot.
Yeah.
And have it
just do it.
Through. But as I said, it's one thing I got to stop doing in our conversations, because there are some dads out there that are actually really good at this. So it's not a gaming dad thing. It's like this gaming dad type of thing. And
and let us know, because then we can message you.
Instead
of AI robots, we just message our listeners and have them guide us.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for listening. We'll wrap it up there for the week. This has been New Dad Gaming. And if you like the show, what really helps us out is if you would go to any of the podcasting networks and give us a subscription and a rating or a comment. That really does help out the show, really helps boost the signal to other gaming dads. You can find us on all the major podcasting networks. So Spotify, Google Play, Apple, iTunes, anywhere, Caster, wherever you get your podcast. Just search for New Dad Gaming. If you have any stories, are you great at min-maxing and in fact love skill trees, and that's your jam? Do you hate them like us? Do you have a gaming tip, be it in how to purchase 3DS on the cheap, or how to get past a gaming funk and find yourself getting back into a game like I did with Horizon Zero Dawn? We'd love to hear from you. Let us know. Reach out to us at newdadgaming.com or any of our socials on Twitter at newdadgaming, or on Twitch at newdadgaming podcast. Once again, everybody, thank you so much for listening. And until next week, my name is Trevor, and I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they're filling out their skill trees.
There we go. What is parenthood if not helping your children just fill out their skill trees for life?
There you go. Any wrong turns, it's on them. I'm sorry.
Remember, everybody, just because you became a dad
Does not mean it's game